Hey guys, welcome to another Garageband tutorial. In the last one we looked at some techniques and tricks you can do with the electronic drummers to get more creative. Let's look at the same thing with acoustic drummers. So I'll start with an empty project. And now you can make your own drum patterns. You can do it from scratch using MIDI notes, right? That's obvious if you don't know. Just create a software instrument track. Then put a drum kit on it. I'll go with the first kit, Bluebird. And then all you do is pencil in, let's say, a 1-bar MIDI region, right? Put a cycle range around it, and then you can create your custom drum pattern from MIDI notes, right? Now, unfortunately, the piano keys down the side do not show you the name of the drums, but the kick drum is on C1, so I'll put in a kick. And then we'll have a snare. There's different snares. There's the loud snare there. There's a softer snare there. There's a side stick. And then there's an even softer snare there. So I'm going to go with the loud snares. And we're going to make a beat like this. And then for the hats, we got two different types of closed hat. One's a little bit tighter than the other one, and there's the open hat. So I'll put in hats, 8 hats, let's say, like that. So, you know, you can make your own patterns. You know, and then just select all those height notes. You can make them more loud velocity. I can select all the kicks. You just click on the note on the piano key at the side and it selects all the notes on that row. Make those a little bit louder in velocity. And then the same with the snare. Select all the snares, make it softer, louder in velocity, whatever I like. Like that could be an open hat. You know, whatever you like, right? Yeah, you can make your own drum patterns, right? But generally speaking, we can use the drummers to make our beats, because remember, when we create a drummer track, we always get the 8 bars of drumming. Let's shorten that down to 1 bar in length. When we have a drummer track and we are building a drum pattern using the drummer editor here, when we go through and change to different drummers, what we're choosing is the patterns that drummer can create, not the sound of the kit. All right, now if I select Kyle, let's put this tempo back to 110, 120 rather. If I choose Kyle, his default kit is SoCal, so SoCal here is highlighted. If I choose Logan, his default kit is Retro Rock, it's highlighted here. If I choose Anders as the drummer, his default kit is Heavy, it's highlighted here. If I choose Max, his default kit is East Bay. So yes, every drummer you choose has a default kit, but we can make any kit be the kit that the drummer is playing. When we go to choose a drummer, what we're choosing is the patterns that drummer can make, because every drummer makes different patterns. And to show you that, we got Kyle here. If I set the ball here at 75% loudness and 50% complexity right in the middle there, take off all the fills, no swing, and I put the kick and snare pattern on pattern 1 and the hi-hat pattern on pattern 1, this is the pattern Kyle plays with hi-hat and kick and snare on pattern 1 at 75% loudness, 50% complexity. But if I now choose Jesse and put the ball in the same place and choose pattern 1 for the kick and snare and pattern 1 for the hats, Jesse plays a completely different pattern. So every drummer plays different patterns. So when you choose your drummer, what you're choosing is the patterns that drummer can play. Don't worry if the kit isn't the sound you like, because once you've got the pattern you like, let's say I like this pattern, I can then choose any kit. Once that pattern is set on the editor here, and it's a Jesse pattern, right? Once that pattern is set, I can then change the kit by choosing a different kit here, and Jesse will play that pattern, but he'll play whichever kit I select. At the moment he's playing his default kit called Smash, but now he's going to play the Bluebird kit. But the pattern remains exactly the same. Now he's going to play the Brooklyn kit, the Detroit Garage kit, the Heavy kit, the Motown Revisited kit, the Retro Rock kit. You see what I mean? Whichever kit I choose, the drummer just plays that kit. But the pattern remains exactly the same for the drummer that I've chosen, right? Which was Jesse, right? So when you choose the drummer, it's about the patterns that drummer creates. So let's go back to Kyle. Okay, so these are the kind of things you can do. So I'll get Kyle playing a pattern that I like. Let's see, let's have kick and snare. Let's see what the second hi-hat pattern is. Take the kick and snare out. Third hi-hat pattern. And this is at 75 loudness, 50% complexity, right? Fourth pattern, 16. So let's go with that one. Okay, and it's an eighth pattern on the hi-hat, but with splashier hats every, like to do a splash, to do a splash, to do a splash. So the first hat of every two hats is a louder splash. Okay, then I'll bring in the kick and snare, and let's try pattern 1, pattern 2, pattern 3, pattern 4, pattern 5. So I'm going to go with that pattern. Pattern 5 for the kick and snare, pattern 2 for the hats, and there's my pattern. Now, yes, once we got that pattern set, I can go through the kits and make Kyle play this beat to on any of these kits. Bluebird, East Bay, Liverpool, Manchester, etc. Okay, but what I can't do is I can't mix and match the drums. I can't, on this one drummer track, say to the drummer, like for example, I'm into smart controls here for this track. If I open up the plugins, there's the drum kit designer instrument there, right? But you can click on it as much as you want. You can't open the drum kit designer to edit the kit. So I can't change the kick drum, or change just the snare drum, or change just the hi-hats or whatever. I can change the whole kit, but I can't change the individual drums of any kit, right? So the way to get around that is obviously to use multiple tracks. Okay, so I'll go back to Smash. No, what was SoCal is Kyle's default kit, I think. Yeah. Okay, so I could try different kits, but ultimately if I want to build a custom kit, I have to do it by using multiple tracks. So what I do is I create an instrument track. Okay, and I'll put the same SoCal kit on this track. Then I'll make another instrument track, and again I'll put the drum kit SoCal. Okay. Now in my pattern here, on the original track, I've got kick, snare and hats. Okay, so what I do is to copy this drummer pattern and turn it into MIDI notes, we select it, Command C to copy, put the playhead to wherever we want, because when I paste in this copied pattern, it will paste beginning at the playhead. So I want it to begin exactly here where the drummer pattern begins. So select the drummer pattern, Command C to copy, select the instrument track with the same SoCal kit on as this drummer track, and paste, and it will paste in at the playhead. But it converts it to MIDI notes. And then again, I'll paste it in on this track, Play ahead to the beginning. So there's the original pattern as a drummer pattern. Then there it is pasted into this kit track as MIDI notes and onto that kit track as MIDI notes. Right. Then I can make one more instrument track. Drum kit, again, I'll go with SoCal, play it to the beginning, select the track, Command V, and paste in a third copy of that pattern. So that's the original pattern done on the editor, done with the drum editor here. And I've copied it as MIDI notes to this track, which has the same kit on. Okay, it's the same pattern, but only it's MIDI notes rather than these diamond shapes, triangle shapes rather. And then I've pasted it onto this track, the same pattern as MIDI notes. And I've pasted it onto this track, the same MIDI notes. And so every track has got that pattern on it, but converted to MIDI notes. And every one of these three tracks has got the same kit on as the original track. Okay, so now let's mute that one. Now on this track, we go into the editor and let's take everything out apart from the kicks. So this is just the kicks, just playing the kicks. This, go into the editor and we'll take out the kicks and the hats and just leave the snares. So that's just the snares now on this track. And then this one, we'll take out the kicks and the snares. Oh. And this is just the hats. Okay, so now this pattern here, playing the SoCal kit, created on the editor, using Kyle as the drummer. I've now copied that pattern onto the three tracks and split them up into kicks, snares and hats. And when they all play together, it sounds exactly the same as that pattern playing the same kit, the SoCal. They're all playing the SoCal. So let's hear it now. This is the three patterns playing the kit, but separated into hats, kick and snare. And that sounds exactly the same as all the notes in the same drummer pattern here playing the same kit. Right? But now that each drum is on its own separate track, we can mix it differently. So I select the kick drum track, go to the smart controls, and I can compress the kick drum here. I can go to the EQ and EQ it to a typical kick drum EQ. Bass boost, scooped out mids, and some boost up the top to give it some edge, like that. So I've got a nice thumping kick drum. Now when you use the EQ panel on the smart controls for the track, in this case the kick track, the EQ panel here is adjusting the EQ here on the effects for the track. We open up the plugins, there's the drum kit designer instrument, and there's the effects. There's an EQ and a compressor. Now the compressor amount control here is adjusting the compressor plugin. Alright, look. And when you tweak this EQ here on the separate panel on the smart controls there, you're actually adjusting the EQ on the plugins here. There's the EQ with exactly the same EQ that I set here on the EQ panel, right? Okay, so we've EQ'd our kick differently. Listen to it with and without the EQ. Right? You hear how kind of mid-rangey and flabby it sounds without the EQ? Bring in the EQ with that scooped out mid, bass boost and a nice bit of edge boost there to get the click of the kick drum. Totally different kick. Nice thumping solid kick, right? Okay, so we've EQ'd our kick drum completely separately. Now let's go to the snare. Again, I can compress it. And then I'll go and EQ it. A bit of low mid boost, a little bit of a scoop out there. and a boost around. Actually, let's scoot with that. Let's give it some edge there. And a bit of fizz up the top, like that. Okay, and we've done a little bit of compression, put some compression on it. And again, when I adjust the EQ here for this snare track, I'm adjusting that EQ there. I set that EQ on the EQ panel here on the Smart Controls, but what I'm actually adjusting is that EQ on the effects for this track. Okay, so let's hear the snare with and without the EQ. Different, right? Okay, so we mix the snare. Now let's do the hats. I can raise the level up a bit here if I want. Compress them a smidge. Let's EQ them. I'm going to take out all the bottom end. Whoop, no, wrong one. I'm going to take out all the bottom end like that with that low shelf, and then give them some air up the top to make them nice and thin and light and high end. Like that. Again, when I adjust this EQ in the Smart Control panel, EQ panel there, I'm actually adjusting the EQ on the track on the effects rack there. There's the curve I put in. Listen to the difference of the hats with and without the EQ. Thin, bigger and flabbier. Okay, so I've mixed my hats, my snare and my kick separately, and now listen. Now let's listen to the original track with the drums unmixed. Same drum kit, but without the drums EQ'd separately. And this is exactly the same kit, but with the drums on separates, mixed with some different EQ. Listen to the difference, right? And to adjust the levels, you use the faders here, obviously. Alright, so we can EQ it separately. Now, obviously, on any one of these effects, on any one of these tracks in the effects rack, I can add extra effects. So the snare here, for example, I mean, if I wanted to go wacky, I could put a plug in here after the EQ and the compressor. I could put, I don't know, a flanger. I know it sounds wacky, but a flanger on the snare. Choose the preset, well, I don't know, intensity tuned flange. I'm going to get a flanged snare. You know what I mean? You can put any effect on it you want because it's a separate drum on its own track. Yeah, you know, I could put anything I want on this, but you can if you want add effects. The other thing we can do is each track has this slider to add master echo or master reverb. Now there's only one echo and one reverb for the entire Garageband song. Okay, every track has in the Smart Controls, if you open up the plugins, every track has a send to send out to the master echo and to send out to the master reverb. And then to edit the master echo and the master reverb, you click this edit button here, and you can edit the master reverb, choose a type of reverb, and then adjust the time and the color and things. And you can choose the master echo, and again choose a preset for the time, and then tweak it, etc. Right? But every track has this echo send to send out some of the sound from that track to the echo, and a reverb send to send out some of that track to add reverb. But there is only one master echo and one master reverb for the whole song. However you set them, if you go to the edit to edit the master echo and master reverb here, however you set the master echo, whatever echo timing you set, however you set the timing, the repeats and the color and all that, which is the EQ of the echo, and however you set the master reverb with the type of reverb, the time, color, etc., that's the EQ for it. However you set that, that's how that master reverb and master echo will be for the entire song. And any track that sends out to that, you've only got that one echo set to whatever it's set to, and that one reverb set to whatever it's set to. But we can send individual drums and anything else on any other track out to the master reverb. So I'm going to send the snare out to the master reverb quite a lot. Now let's go into edit. Here's the master reverb settings. So let's choose if we choose like live club, right? Go back to the track, send out even more. Can you hear it? Right, and go back to edit. So that is my live club, and then I can adjust the timing. And the tone and the volume level, but it does sound like it's breaking up a bit actually. Let's try this. Maybe it's the sound's cracking up. I might have to reboot. That sounded a bit wrong. Or we could have what's this multiple room? Let's hear that. Now back here, we're sending it out from the snare to that reverb. Okay, so we got a bit of that reverb on the snare. Okay, which changes the sound, of course. I could put that same reverb on the hats. Just go to the hats track, make sure the track is selected here, and send some of the reverb, send some of the hi-hats out to the reverb. Yeah? Or the kick, I could send some of the kick out to the reverb. Right? Okay, but I don't want reverb or echo on the kick. Let's put a bit of master echo on the hats. The hats are playing 8s. Now I go to the hat track. Make sure this is on track. Look in my plugins here. There's the master echo send. Send out some master echo. Right. Send out some hats to the master echo. Go to edit. Now let's set the... Let's choose the master echo. Set the setting for it. Let's set it to an 8th. Like that. Yeah, or we could set an 8th dotted. This is the colour for the echo, more trebly that way. More bassy that way. So there's some echo. Go back to the track. Controls. So I'm sending out some hi-hats to the echo. Not too much. And on the snare, we're sending out to the master reverb again, not too much. Okay, so again, we've got a different sound, right? Because I put some reverb on the snare and some echo on the hats. Let's put some echo on the snare as well. Choose the snare, turn up the echo send. And you can hear those echo repeats on the snare. Okay, so that's the kind of things you could do. You use the drummer editor to create your basic beat. And remember, whatever drummer you choose, that when you choose that drummer, it's about the patterns that drummer can make. Some drummers play straight, some play funky, etc. Right? Then you convert it to MIDI and split it across 3 tracks, and then you can. And remember, these 3 tracks have got the same kit on, the same SoCal kit, SoCal kick drum, SoCal snare, SoCal hats. So these 3 sound identical to the drummer pattern playing the same SoCal kit, but we've EQ'd them differently and put some effects on them differently, right? But these 3 tracks are still playing SoCal. That's the SoCal kick, that's the SoCal snare, that's the SoCal hats, but we can change them to mix and match our kit. So there's the kick drum. If I want, I can go with the heavy kick, the heavy kit for the kick drum. So now only the kick drum is playing the heavy drum kit, which has a big thumping, solid stadium type kick. All right. Now I can EQ it. Let's EQ that kick drum. Typically EQ, scoop out the mids, boost the bass, give it some edge up there, slightly tighter Q, and listen, the kick drum will go really solid now. Now bear in mind, the heavy kit has that room, that ambient room sound on the kick and sound. You can't remove that. So if you don't want that ambient sound, but you try another kit for only for the kick drum. Remember, this is only the kick drum track. Let's try East Bend. See if we get a more dry kick drum, right? A little bit of room on that as well. Let's try Brooklyn. Yeah, there's room on that as well. Let's try Bluebird. And on that, a lot of these kits have room sound, and you can't remove that. Let's try 4 on the floor. Yeah, that's got some ambience, but it's a bit of a tighter sound. Liverpool. That's again less room sound. Manchester. That's quite a lot of room sound. Motown. Yeah, that's got reverb. Neo Soul. That's quite a solid ambient sound. Portland. A lot of room on that. Retro rock. That's fairly solid. Bit of room on it. A lot of room. Sounds like So Kind of Smash used the same kick. Sunset. Right, so they are quite roomy, all of them, right? But retro rock is a fairly tight sound, like a very, very small ambient space. I'll go with that Liverpool because that's quite soft. Now I'll EQ it to give it some edge. Okay, so it's a bit more thumping now. And now we've got the Liverpool kick drum with the SoCal snare and the SoCal hats. Now let's change the snare. Let's say we don't like the SoCal snare. So we can change that. We just change the kit for this track, which has only the snare on it. Bluebird. Now when we do that, we lose the EQ we set and the effects and everything, but Brooklyn. Detroit Garage, East Bay, 4 on the floor. Well, that's quite a nice dry snare. Heavy, but lots of room sound on that. Liverpool, very dry, deep, flabby snare. Manchester, quite roomy that one. Motown, Neo Soul. Yeah, let's go with that. It's a nice dry sound for the snare. Then I'm going to EQ it. I'm going to give it a bit more up here. Bit of body around that 200 Hertz. Let's take out the bottom. Okay, completely different snare sound, right? Now, going to the smart controls. Oops, sorry, smart controls. And we can add a bit of reverb, master reverb to that snare. let's go into edit that reverb. Let's change it from multiple room to the reflective room. There's definitely something wrong with this reverb. It's breaking up and it's only on one side of the mix. But there's some independent reverb on the snare. Oh, I could choose a different one like small hall. Go back to track and not quite so much being sent to that. Bit of compression for the snare. There's some clip distortion on here being controlled by this drive control. Look, the clip distortion. I could add distortion to this snare. Etc. Right? So a completely different kit again. Now we've got the Liverpool kick drum, the Neo Soul snare, but the hats are still playing the SoCal hats. Sounds completely different to the original beat, where the beat is all playing the SoCal and none of the individual drums are EQ'd. Listen to it. Totally different, right? So there's some ideas. Okay, you can mix and match to build custom kits. Okay, it does mean that your Mac is going to have to load up a whole drum kit just to play the kick drum, a whole drum kit just to play the snare, a whole drum kit just to play the hats, and then if you want toms as well, let's go back to this original pattern here, and let's put some toms in. Take out the hats, kick and snare, just have toms. Right, there's a tom pattern. Let's make another one of these kits. Software instrument. Or we could just leave it on this drummer track. Yeah, in fact, that's what I'll do. Let's take that out. I'll leave it on the drummer track. So this drummer track now is just going to play a tom lick, and the rest of the pattern has been copied over to here, and it's playing these different drums. So this is now going to play toms on the SoCal. And then I can compress the toms, EQ them. Etc. Add reverb, add echo. Okay, and now this editor pattern is just playing me the toms, only the toms. The rest of the beat was copied over to here to these MIDI notes and has been assigned to different drums. If I don't like the SoCal toms, I've used Kyle to make that tom pattern. But I could change this to a different kit. I could change it to East Bay for the toms. That tom pattern will stay the same because that's created by Kyle. Now we're just changing the kit here. 4 on the floor toms. Yeah, they're nice and meaty. Nice. Let's try some echo on the toms. And there's a beat. Let's go and just tweak that snare EQ. Yeah, and you know, that is how you do that. Hey, you could even layer the snare, for example. Let's make another software instrument track. The snare at the moment is playing the Neo Soul kit with this EQ. On here I'll put drum kit, I'll put the Motown Revisited, and then copy the snare pattern onto it. Now I've got a layered snare, Neo Soul and Motown Revisited, and I'll just balance them with their faders. I'll go back to this one, the Neo Soul, and take the reverb off, and then the Motown Revisited layered, I'll lower it right down and put reverb on that. It's already got spring reverb on, and compress it. You can do it any way you want, or you could have that louder and this one less. But the thing is, I'm layering 2 snares now. I could try a little, I could try this, I don't know if it's going to work, but I'll put on here I don't know if you have this effect. Because remember, I've got Logic installed, so these effects are Logic and GarageBand effects. I don't know if you have any pitch shifter in GarageBand. Oh yeah, it looks like a GarageBand effect. Let's pitch shift this Motown metal snare. Ah, there's a delay on it. Okay, fair enough, that ain't going to work. It's putting a delay on. But, you know, I'm layering 2 different snares now. I could pan one snare one way and one the other. Sounds a bit wacky, but, you know, you can do whatever you like. Finally, the hi-hats, they're still playing the original SoCal kit. Let's try Scientific Method for those. Okay, Roots, Retro Rock, Portland, Neo Soul. Yeah, they're quite alright. Then let's just EQ that. Give them some shimmer up here. Take the bottom out. Okay, back to the controls, a little bit of echo. No. Bit of echo on that snare. A little bit of echo on the other snare. Compression on the kick. Yeah, I'll take the echo off everything now. Set for the toms. And there you go. Now we've got a totally different kit. The Liverpool kick drum, the Neo Soul snare layered with the Motown snare, Neo Soul hats. They could be anything. I'll put it back to the SoCal ones. EQ them again. Whoop. Right, and the 4 on the floor kit playing the toms. So then we got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layered kit. Yeah, it's there's where your creativity is. You know, you can mix and match drums to build custom kits if you get creative in this way. Okay, it is a bit laborious having to do this, but you know that's the way it works. Now, obviously, I'm just doing this with a 1-bar pattern. If you wanted to do this to a drum track for the whole song, then you would create your drum track using the drummer regions and edit them, you know, with the editor to get the patterns you want in the order you want, right? And then when you've got that for the whole song, you would then do the same thing. Command C, copy the whole lot, choose your next track with the kit on, Command V, paste in, and there's the whole, all the drumming, snare, hats, whatever your patterns are made of, kicks, snares, hats, toms, whatever, paste it in, but it's the whole length of the song. And then again, paste in, and the next kit, paste in, and then you'd have to go through, it's a laborious process, but you have to go through and take out everything on this track except for the kicks, and then go through all these and take out everything apart from the snares, then go through and take out everything apart from the hats, etc. But then your whole drum track across the length of the song will have individual drums on tracks that you can mix to a much higher standard. Yeah? Okay. Sure, I hope that's useful, but there is some little tricky wikis with the drums. And just to remind you, I'll put one more drummer track in with Kyle. And what I'll do is actually take that out and I'll copy this pattern down onto Kyle. Same drummer, come on. Oh, I won't do it. Okay, well. Okay, so what was it? 75% complexity, 50%. It was. What do we have for the hats? Pattern 2 for the hats. Pattern 5 for the kick and snare. So on this one, pattern 2 for the hats, pattern 5 for the kick and snare. This is. Let's take that back to just the toms. So yeah, so this is the original beat, just on its own, without fills. And then this is the beat mixed on separate drums. It's a world of difference, right, with the toms added in on top. Yeah? Okay, so I hope that's useful.